What's up, fight fans? Welcome back to the MMA Savvy Podcast. It's your favorite host, Ari Weiss, alongside combat sport expert Big Rich Fulgoni. And today we'll be discussing the UFC White House card and our bold prediction for the main event. Then we'll preview UFC Fight Night, Strickland versus Hernandez, that goes down Saturday night in Houston. Then we'll end the show by analyzing the middleweight division and break down who's next for current champ Chimaev. In standard Savvy fashion, we'll go through the card, break down on the big fights, and drop our official MMA Savvy fight picks. So with that, let's go straight to the card and get rolling. All right, Richie boy, the first topic is going to be this damn White House card. But before I get into my analysis on who should be in the main event, are you sick of hearing about the White House card? Is it messing up the rest of the cards? What are your feelings here?
Yeah, we've been hearing about it for a long time. Look, it's going to be exciting when it happens. It's kind of weird that it's going to be on a Sunday, you know, Trump's birthday, so I understand that's why they're moving it. But yeah, I want to hear some bookings, and sounds like, you know, from what Ari Emanuel said, we're kind of down to 6-7 fights, it looks like. But I want to see who those people are, and there's just so many moving parts right now, even with the fights going on this weekend. So yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
So it's got to be, in my eyes, let's talk about who could possibly be in the main event. As you can see here, baby, it's got to be Topuria Gaethje. Okay, it's the only option, and I'll tell you why. Justin's coming off the monumental victory against Patty. Topuria is probably the most feared MMA fighter in the world right now besides Islam, okay? So it's perfect theater, if you will. It's got to be main event. Justin's an American coming off such an amazing victory. He's got the power and the balls to stand in the pocket with Ilia, okay? Ilia obviously is going to be favored and he's got the upper hand, but I love the fight as the main event. Now, before I get into my bold proclamation here, why is it not Jones Pereira? Because Dana's sick of Jones. Jones is so wishy-washy and Pereira wants to move up and fight him. There's still a small percentage of a chance that maybe that happens. And then maybe Dana says, okay, Jones Pereira main event, Gaethje Topuria co-main. The only other thing, of course, is the Conor McGregor situation. You know, I'm a Conor guy, but I'm sick of hearing about it. And even if they did get him last second, he's only going to fight Masvidal or Chandler or Diaz, and that could at best be a co-main. To me, it has to be Topuria Gaethje, unless Jones all of a sudden rides in on a white horse and tries to salvage his career.
He does like to ride the white horse, that's for sure.
Do you like that? What are your feelings before I make my proclamation?
Yeah, listen, man, there's a lot of moving parts, like I said in the intro. Jones, I mean, he's talking about this arthritic hip. Can he still fight? Was that just him taking shots at DC and why he didn't wrestle him? Who knows? Without that, I think, yeah, you'd probably need Conor's star power, right? Like, because outside of Dana, Conor's not fighting in, 3-4 years. He's still the biggest star in the UFC. So if you can match him up against one of those guys you mentioned, great. Chandler, I don't want to see that at this point. You know, he's just, you know, he's coming off a terrible loss against Patty. So the Masvidal one's interesting. He always makes for a great fight. Those guys would scrap, and we're going to see someone probably get knocked down or knocked out. But, you know, if I had to pick one, I'm saying Diaz 3. You know what I mean? I love Nate. I love the first two fights. They were competitive. Those two have some of the biggest star power we've seen in the last decade in the UFC, so it would make a lot of sense.
Okay, but if we're talking about the main event, even if you get that Conor fight, that could be at co-main at the most.
Right,
so it has to be Topuria Gaethje at this point, because even if they try to do Nunes versus Harrison, the neck is not going to be ready, and that would still be a co-main anyway. So I feel like it's got to be my boy Gaethje. And I'm going to make a bold proclamation again here, Richie boy. People know my feelings on this. Justin is going to go to the White House and knock out Topuria in front of 50 million watching around the world, baby. And then he's going to take out Armin later in the year. And if Max or Charles want some, come see Justin, and he's going to run through all of them, baby. Okay? That's my bold proclamation.
All right, well, let me mention one thing. That seems like it's a done deal. I think the wild card hanging in the wings is Islam, right? He did come out and say he would be ready and he would take that fight. I think we know he's not going down to 155, so Topuria has to come up to 170. That might be too big of an ask for him. Is his power going to translate? Will, you know, Islam have an advantage being more of a natural 170-pound guy? We'll see. So I think that could still derail this. But if that fight is made, I love Justin. You know, like I said, I was excited for him to get this opportunity. I still think he gets murked as much as I love him.
Let's move on We got a big fight card next weekend. Finally, you know Wally hates bye weeks. Another bye week that early in the year? Come on, Dana. But anyway, we're live in Houston next Saturday night. Strickland Hernandez, an amazing middleweight matchup. I do like the card. It's pretty damn good for a fight night. We're going to go straight to the main event here. Number 3 in the world, Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez. Number 4 in the world, a new American wrestling superstar. Let's look at the records. Strickland now at his point in his career, 29-7. Hernandez, 15-2. Let's look at Sean here. So he had the belt, masterclass against Izzy. He loses that first one to Du Plessis, but it was very, very close, if you remember. It could have gone either way. I thought Du Plessis did enough. He then edges out Costa in a hard-fought battle to then lose in the rematch to Du Plessis, I feel like even more soundly. He was in the fight, but he just didn't go for broke, and he let Du Plessis take it from him again. And, you know, once you get your second shot, it's not going to be easy to get a third. But he's still a very viable contender. He's been suspended. Then you look at Hernandez, and he has been on a crazy run, mopping the floor with tons of top-level guys, knocking out Pereira, beating Allen in a very close rematch grappling duel, and then just basically running through and making mincemeat of leads. This guy looks like, besides Chimaev, the most scary grappler, maybe not even just in the division, but in the entire UFC. So most people think Hernandez is going to do it. He now is a minus 310. But you know what, Richie? I'm taking Sean Strickland here. That's Wally's proclamation because you know what? His BJJ is scary. Maybe he's got good wrestling defense that you were talking about. Maybe Fluffy can't mop the floor with him like he does Dolid. And then on the feet, Strickland has the edge. So I say maybe he's got a shot at stuffing the takedowns, threatening submissions, staying alive, and then winning on the feet and maybe getting a stoppage. If Hernandez can't get the takedown, maybe he loses his confidence and my boy Sean gets the victory. So I'm taking Strickland. What do you say to that?
Yeah, man. You know, can't hate on that pick. I will say Fluffy, it just his cardio and his output and the way that he comes forward, you know, he's going for grappling exchange, he's going for takedowns, and he's punching and kicking. He's going to hurt you. He's throwing with bad intentions. We saw that in the last fight. I mean, he really just put a masterclass on him, beat him down, and, you know, he had that sort of walk-off throwaway choke at the end there. I think what you saw with DDP and why Strickland did not do well in that second fight more so was DDP came out and got right in his face, put him on the back foot immediately. And he doesn't fight well like that. He fights really well when he's keeping distance with his jab and he's throwing those teeps up the middle, you know what I mean? And he's fighting and getting into his rhythm. So I honestly think that all that Fluffy has to do is disrupt that rhythm, get him down. He doesn't have to keep him down, but just make him work. And I think he's going to cause problems for him. I probably take Fluffy by decision. I think there is a chance, though, if he can get the hands on him, he could maybe break him down and submit him in the 4th or 5th.
Good call, but I'm also going to add on to my pick, baby. Not only is Strickland going to take out Hernandez this weekend, okay, but then he's going to take out Chimaev possibly at the White House, because the one other matchup that we're forgetting is if Strickland does win this fight in devastating fashion, then maybe Dana lets him jump the line and they throw him on the White House because it could be for the belt against Chimaev, and then he beats Chimaev the same night that Gaethje beats Topuria, baby. Okay, now let's end the episode looking at the middleweight division. Now that we know that we have that amazing matchup, let's check this out because as you all remember, this was Wally's #1 division last year until maybe welterweight took the crown. But anyway, middleweight division. The issue here, and I'll let you jump in later to bash Chimaev, Richie boy, he's been sitting there. He mopped the floor with DDP all the way back in August. It's been 5 months. I know there's the Ramadan situation, but he could have come in and fought in February now, right before Ramadan, if he wanted to be an active champ. Now he's going to have to wait until way longer. So you got Chimaev sitting there, DDP sitting there. I'm surprised he hasn't taken a fight to get right since that. We all know Imavov is probably next in line for Chimaev, but he's also been sitting there now for 4 months or something like that. Strickland now fights Hernandez like we just said. And the crazy thing about this is, per my proclamation, if Sean or if Hernandez both have unbelievable, devastating wins, they might leapfrog the lesser-known Imavov to get a Chimaev, maybe at the White House or later in the year. I still think it's Imavov next in line unless something crazy dramatic happened. Brendan Allen's been sitting there after his big win. He's back in the mix. Then you got Izzy fighting Pfeiffer later in March. You got Borralho already booked against the Ritter in a couple weeks on the BMF card. Whitaker's out. I think he's done. Cannonier's done. Page is fighting at welterweight. Don't get me started. Dolidze is fighting CLD, Leroy Duncan, in March in London. I do like that fight. And then you got RoboCop versus my boy, the Hulk, Fahea, in a rematch because Fahea knocked out RoboCop in the first one. That also is on the BMF card. So besides those 4 guys in the top third of this division, it actually is pretty active. But we need Chimaev and DDP and Allen and Imavov to fight. What do you think of this breakdown, Richie?
Yeah, no, it's a clean breakdown. As you said, I mean, the division is kind of hot right now. There's a lot of fights booked, and we're going to get a lot of answers pretty quickly. Yes, you know how I feel about Chimaev. I mean, Din Thomas was one of the first ones to call this out when he was, talking about him potentially winning that fight against DDP, that he's going to be a very inactive champion, and he caught a lot of flack for it. But I think, if you look at what he's done since he came into the UFC, he came out hot and he fought like back-to-back, in a few weeks on short notice and stuff. And then he's been pretty much averaging 1 fight a year, you know what I mean? And so I'm not surprised he's inactive. I've always said I want active champs. I want at least 2 fights a year minimum. But I mean, the way guys are doing camps now, they're usually doing 6 or 8 week camps. So fighting 3 times a year is not a huge ask, right? You get a month off after your fight, you get another month to get your camp right, travel, whatever, and then you got a couple months to conduct your camp and show up for fight night. So I would like to see Chimaev be more active. With that said, I'm really curious at this point. If Sean wins, I think you nailed it, right? If Sean wins, you make that fight at the White House. You got the American outspoken versus the Russian, and the trash talk in those press conference leading up to that will just be electric. That would be amazing, right? But if Sean doesn't win and Fluffy wins, then I'm interested to see what does the UFC do, right? Do they give Imavov the title shot? If Fluffy wins in devastating fashion, do they give him the shot? Is there a world where DDP gets a rematch? Probably not. So I'd kind of like to see DDP probably fight down a little bit against Allen, since he's not booked. The only one up there in like the top 6 or 7. That would be a great test for him. Another great grappler, wrestler who's got good hands too. We've seen him in scrappy fights with Fluffy, and he looked good against DeRitter. Although I think if DeRitter was healthy, he probably takes that fight. Or I shouldn't say healthy, but not worn down from the excessive amount of fights that he took on that year in the weight cuts. But yeah, so let's see that DDP Allen get booked if that's the case. And I'd be happy to see either Fluffy or Strickland against Chimaev at the White House. You've got an American that's very outspoken. You've got a Mexican American, and then you've got, Chimaev, who, I think a lot of people used to be excited about his fights, but because of that last performance being so much control and him not really putting it on the line, you know what I mean? I think he's lost some of the American fans potentially. So I'd be excited to see either one of those matchups.
Okay, Savvy fans, that was our middleweight analysis. I hope you love those deep dives. Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you for listening to the MMA Savvy Podcast, the world's top place for MMA content. If you love these weekly episodes, make sure to hit subscribe. And if you're a real MMA enthusiast, check out the old MMA Savvy videos on our page. You might see some UFC legends pop up, such as Nick Diaz, Ronda Rousey, and Jon Jones. The old channel has been revived, and we couldn't be more excited. So please subscribe, follow, comment, like, share, and blast on all of our social channels. We're blasting hard on the talk, we're heavy on the gram, and we're going crazy on the tube. That's at MMA Savvy and at Richie Boy MMA. And make sure to comment and challenge our takes if you have disagreements. We love the comments and interactions with the fans. So with that, stay savvy, fight fans.